Hey everybody, welcome to the Stack Your Points. This is the Monday edition, which is our Back to Basics segment. This is a section where we talk about all things basic credit cards, whether it is knowing what an introductory APR offer is, what are transfer partners and how do I access them, what rules does American Express have. All of this and more will be answered in this section. This is our weekly section, just getting those who are new to credit cards kind of up to speed.
So let's jump into things. We have our back to basics of the week. Our back to basics topic this week, and back to basics is a segment we do to give you a 10,000-foot view, or more like a 30,000-foot view of basic parts of the credit card world. Things you should know, terms you should know, concepts you should know. And our concept this week is the balance transfer. So balance transfers can be introductory, or for whatever reason, Capital One decides to throw me balance transfers whenever the heck they feel like giving me one so that I can pay them money. So balance transfers. RJ, what can you tell us about balance transfers? And we'll fill in.
So balance transfers sort of at their core are you're taking a balance from one card. Typically, it's going to be from one credit card and you're moving it to another credit card. Now, you typically do this because of a zero APR, which means you're not paying any interest, or a very low APR, which means you're paying a lower interest rate than you would on the card with a lot of debt on it. Now, there are specific cards that are marketed as balance transfer cards, which means that they either always have a low APR or they have a zero APR and it turns into a lower APR. Lower just means like 11% versus 30%. So low is relative depending on how you're putting that in context. But there are cards that are sort of marketed as balance transfer cards. And then there are cards like, say, the Blue Business Plus, which has an introductory zero APR for a year. And then some people would balance transfer onto a card like that. So you can move your debt, have 12 months or 15 months or 18 months or 21 months in some cases to pay that debt off without interest, which if you have a lot of debt and you're trying to consolidate it, could be a very handy thing. But the pitfall of that is you can get hit really, really hard at the end of that period if the entire amount isn't paid off. And there can be issues. I've heard of banks rejecting if they see that you've done multiple balance transfers from one of their cards. It can actually get rejected, or there can be issues. And you also pay a fee a lot of times to balance transfer. It's either a set fee or a percentage if it's over a certain dollar amount. So it really is something that can be potentially very beneficial if you've got a lot of debt, but you also have to make sure you're not making other debt on other cards while you're doing this and you understand the terms. I usually recommend to have it a full billing cycle before the end of the term just to make sure you're all set. But you definitely want to make sure you know when that balance transfer ends and everything is paid off, because that interest can hit you like a ton of bricks. And then you get in the situation where you need another balance transfer to clean up your balance transfer.
Yeah. I'm not aware if the Blue Business Plus does a 0% balance transfer, because a lot of business cards I've noticed don't, but
Not
I
a
could be
balance
wrong.
transfer, but you can sometimes get that as part of your offer. That was the first card with 12 months of zero APR that came to my mind. So maybe not the
Got it.
the Chase Freedom Unlimited might be a better option, or a better example there. 15 months zero APR and like I want to say like 5%. It's a relatively low amount to transfer to that card.
Yeah, it's like 5% or $5, whichever one's higher. Um, Examples of balance transfer for specific cards or cards that are basically just like really great for the balance transfer because they don't offer any other rewards would be the Bank America card from Bank of America. That is, I want to say, an 18-month balance transfer option, 0% APR. I'm doing this from the top of my head, so if I am wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments, or write us a professionally worded email. Um, Other ones would be the Wells Fargo Reflect. That is an 18-month balance transfer, but after you pay your first 3 months on time, they give you an additional 3 months on the back end, so it becomes a 21-month balance transfer card option. There's the Chase Slate Edge card, which is an 18-month. There is For Capital One, they don't really have a specific balance transfer card, but the Saver one does have a balance transfer option on it. I believe it's 15 months. The Quicksilver also has a balance transfer option. And as a Capital One customer, I am offered 12-month balance transfer options on both my Quicksilver and my Saver one at least once a year, and I have been holding those cards for years. One of the other potential pitfalls of balance transfers, just to get it out there, they will, if personal credit versus business credit is a thing for you, and for beginners, it's just going to affect primarily your personal. It will take up utilization of the card that you're balance transferring to. So if the card that you open for the purpose of a balance transfer has like a $10,000 limit, but you have like $7,500 of debt that you're trying to consolidate, yes, you're going to be able to absorb that, but you're going to be using 75% of your utilization. Is this a big deal? As you're paying it down, you'll open up more portions on that card, and it'll drive down your utilization on your other cards. So that's something to take into account. But it is going to be a bit of a ding on your credit report, as you have like one card with 75% utilization and other cards that would report like 5 or 10%, depending on what you're doing. But as long as you're paying that down, you're going to be good. So I did want to highlight that as another portion of things with balance transfers, as I've forgotten other balance transfer cards that come to mind. Oh, sorry. Citi has two, because Citi is weird and they can never be consistent. There is the higher end Diamond Preferred card, which I think is an 18-month card. And then there's the Citi Simplicity, which is a 15-month card. Why does Citi have two balance transfer cards? Why does Citi do anything? Just to throw things at us. So that's kind of like a high level view. Tariq, do you have any other either instances of balance transfer cards or other things you think folks should know on balance transfers?
So I want to make note about that Diamond Preferred, because I think I've recommended it to some friends and family. It's actually 21 months, which again, Citi having more than one balance transfer card, I guess one for your credit or whatever. One thing that I will say, because like I said, talking to friends and family about balance transfer cards, look at your local credit unions, because compared to your big banks, your Cities, your Chase, Capital One, Wells Fargo, et cetera, your credit unions are going to have lower rates than the low rates that they'll have for the big banks. And sometimes, depending on who you're banking with, there's also a $0 balance transfer fee. So instead of paying like the 3 or 5% for however much you're paying, like say if you're moving $10,000, 5% of $10,000, I don't feel like doing the math right now. But getting the point, you could save that money, you can save that hit, plus saving the money in interest to pay that balance transfer off. So look at your local credit unions if is a balance transfer something you are needing to consider.
5% of 10,000 is $500, so you'd be saving yourself a pretty penny with a $0 balance transfer fee on $10,000 of debt. So that's definitely something you consider. Balance transfers are also good ways to avoid having to take out a personal loan, which is another vehicle for debt consolidation. Personal loans, they're installment loans, so they're not going to count as revolving accounts. And sometimes, depending on your credit profile, you may want to go the personal loan route. But typically, if a credit card can absorb the amount of debt that you have to carry, it's usually better to try and open a balance transfer card, or I've noticed that it's usually better to try to open a balance transfer card and take on that debt. You're going to take a ding with that one particular card with utilization, but once you pay everything off, it's not like you had to go out and apply for a personal loan for that same amount. I have gone both the personal loan route and the balance transfer routes for debt consolidation. I've noticed for modest balances. I'm not going to say like huge balances, but under $10,000, if you can get a balance transfer option and you can pay that off in 12 to 18 months, you're in pretty good shape there. If you're looking at something like 25 plus $1,000 in debt, personal loan is going to be your friend on that one. So, and they operate a little bit differently. With a balance transfer, you have to go into the card that you are looking to initiate the transfer to, sign into that card, say that you want to initiate a balance transfer, pick the card that you're transferring from to that card, and take those steps. So if you get the Wells Fargo Reflect card, I just picked the Reflect. It could be any balance transfer card. Go in, you sign in, you say I want to transfer a balance. You'll transfer it to the Reflect and say you have the Chase Freedom Flex sitting there with about $8,000 in debt that you want to move over to the Reflect card. You state which card that would be, and then that transfer counts as a payment to the card that you're transferring from. So the card that you transfer from, you're good now. You're in the clear on that because you've made your $8,000 payment to Chase. Chase recognizes it as a payment, and you're good to go from there. I haven't noticed too many issues with transfers, but that is also because I keep potential balance transfers to a minimum. I do them maybe once every 3 years. But that's because, again, I have a bank that is begging me to give them money, which is weird. And yeah, that's just an interesting situation with Capital One, with my use case for Capital One, because I don't swipe my Capital One card enough and they want money. So that helps.
So I have two things to mention quick. One, I would strongly suggest if you're trying to hit a sub, don't hit the sub and then try to balance transfer the 6,000 or 3,000 or however much onto a different card. That is a great way to get whatever issuer you just did to either claw back, especially for their Amex, claw back the points, or they're going to want to do everybody's favorite financial review. And any bank will do a financial review if they think that you're doing something shady. That's not just an Amex thing. Amex tends to be more prolific with their financial reviews, but any bank will do it. So don't try to rack up multiple $1,000s on a card to hit a sub and then try to balance transfer. That is a very, very bad idea. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is it's not instant. So make sure that you're giving yourself time and make sure you understand, like, you still have to make minimum payments. So even if it's $35, you still have to have a minimum payment on that card. So don't get yourself in a situation where you forget about that card for 15 months and then go look at your credit score and you've got a 400 because you haven't been paying anything on the card that you balance transfer to. So make sure you're still, doing on-time payments, all of that, even if you balance transferred, because you can do a thing that you think is going to help your credit, and then it tanks your credit because you're not paying attention. But definitely don't do a sub, hit a sub, and then try to balance transfer, because you will. I have not done that personally, but that is something I have seen done in real time. And oh boy, do they not call you with the nicest customer service representative if they have questions about why you just did that.
I may have done that, but I may have done that on a card that had no annual fee. Whereas if I had done that with the American Express Platinum card, I probably would have gotten a call. I won't say which card I did that from, but I'm lucky. I'll just go with that.
Yeah, don't incriminate yourself, Matt. Also,
yeah,
we know why you picked the Wells Fargo Reflect. You're not slick. You're the king of Wells Fargo for a reason. So
yeah, but I don't have a Reflect card. If I'm getting a balance transfer card, it's to balance transfers off my Wells Fargo cards, and you can't balance transfer within the same bank typically. Oh, that's another thing. You can't balance transfer within a bank.
Yeah, don't do that, because they're just going to look at you funny, and then more financial reviews, more questions. And if you like the relationship with the bank and possibly the other banks you deal with, don't do those things.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another thing that I should have mentioned in my diatribes. If you have a balance on a Wells Fargo card that you want to transfer, you cannot transfer that balance from Wells Fargo card to Wells Fargo card. You can get a Chase card, like the Chase Late Edge, and transfer from Wells Fargo to Chase. You can get the Bank of America card. You can get a TD card that has a balance transfer option. I don't think there is a TD card that does that. PNC, most no annual fee cards, part of what will bring in new customers for those cards will be the option of a balance transfer. All Citi no annual fee cards have balance transfer options, also with relatively good length of term for them. Double Cash, Custom Cash. I want to say the AT&T card, but I could be wrong. But the Double Cash and the Custom Cash both have 15 months of balance transfer availability. The Chase Freedom cards have a 15 months of balance transfer capability. The Slate Edge is 18 months. The Wells Fargo cards, the Active Cash has a balance transfer capability, and the Reflect has a balance transfer capability. The Autograph used to, but they cut that from the Autograph. And the Attune does not have a balance transfer option. It has 0% APR for the first year of purchases. I can't speak to, I'm sure the customized cash rewards card has a 0% balance transfer option for about 12 to 15 months. I can't speak to the other Bank of America cards, but typically your no annual fee cards, like those keeper beginner cards within the ecosystems, those are all going to have like 12 or 15 month balance transfer options. And then a balance transfer specific card will probably have more of the 18 to 21 month.
Just because I know somebody in the comments is going to ask, you don't get rewards for the transferred card. So even if it is a card where magically there's like 2% for everything, you don't get
Oh
rewards
yeah.
for that. You get, it's basically a cash advance that they're not charging you a fee for cash advancing.
Yeah, balance transfers, cash advances, all of those things don't count toward welcome offers. So if you're getting like the Chase Freedom Unlimited, I'm going to use Freedom Unlimited for this one. You sign up for the Chase Freedom Unlimited, it's got a 15-month balance transfer option, and you balance transfer from another card onto that, and you think, oh, my balance transfer is my payment, is my welcome offer. No. Balance transfers are explicitly stated in the terms that they do not count toward the introductory welcome offer. Cash advances, lotteries, and some other things, but read your terms and conditions. Other things is to make sure that other things to take into account is make sure that the card that you want to balance your transfer from to your new balance transfer card allows you to balance transfer off of it, because some cards don't let you do that, like the X1 card. Don't ask me how I know. That card is so terrible. But there may be others as well. But I've learned that pain the hard way, that you cannot balance transfer off. The sick thing with that was I got the balance. It showed the balance transfer, but the balance transfer never went through. So it was like, oh yeah, here's the money off the card. It's pending, and then all the money went right back on the card. It was awesome. Great. So, yeah. Make sure that you know that the card that you're transferring from allows a balance transfer as an option.
Also, with Amex specifically, balance transfers can affect your relationship. If you're racking up debt on Amex cards and then balance transferring off, even if it's not for a sub, that is something that can put you in pop-up jail. I have not had that happen, but it is it's in the diatribe that they put in, when they say reasons that you might be in, they don't call it pop-up jail, but reasons you might not receive a welcome offer. Your history of balance transfers is one of those things. Now, if you've done one balance transfer, are you going to get pop-up jail? Probably not, depending on everything else. But something to consider, like banks do know what you're doing, even if it just shows a payment. The banks on the back end know. So you're not getting away with anything. Really, a balance transfer is meant to help you out to pay your debt without interest charges. So something to keep in mind as well. Sorry, that popped in my head and I thought I'd share with the class.
And if you're having issues getting a balance transfer card, you can always explore other options with your issuer of choice. Chase is getting really into pay over time, which may incur a fee with Chase, but if it's going to allow you to not incur their complete interest, could be worth pursuing. American Express has the same sort of thing. I don't think it's called pay over time, but they do have an extended pay thing. Usually for purchases over $100, you can pay over time with both American Express and Chase. Other issuers that have that sort of feature, I'm not aware of off the top of my head, but that does not mean that there are not other issuers that have the same sort of thing. Maybe US Bank does it, maybe they don't. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm also not a US Bank customer yet. We'll see. But yeah. So balance transfers can be your friend. Just make sure that you, as with all things, use them properly. Do not attempt to just, oh, I transferred the balance off. That's the payment. No, you've got to pay the balance transfer. So just keep those things in mind. There is a point where balance transfers are really super beneficial for your debt consolidation with credit cards. There is a point where you should consider another avenue for debt consolidation. I like to use $10,000 as that sort of limit, but to each their own. And you also have to make sure that if you're going to say it's $10,000, that you have a card that is capable of getting $10,000. Or if you're going to go after like the Chase, let's say you go for the Chase Slate Edge card. If you've got another Chase card with a relatively large balance, you can temporarily move balances around just to make sure that you can absorb that hit. Or you may want to look at another avenue of consolidating that debt. So just food for thought and do your research.